Hey, Facebook. It's another Thursday evening here in Hartford. And it's Money Week, which is a bit of a crazy week. What essentially that means is that the two financial committees, which is appropriations, on which I sit, and finance, bonding, and revenue, which is the revenue side of the equation, both have our deadlines this week. And so we both pass preliminary spending and revenue plans and try to match them up, and so lots of money related, financial related things get put out this week, but a lot of moving pieces, and all of it very preliminary because it's just the first step in a series of negotiations that will happen with the legislature, leadership of the relevant committees, the leadership of both houses of the legislature, and of course the governor's office. So lots of work ahead. I did a little video on Tuesday when appropriations passed its preliminary budget, and so I won't repeat all of that, but I'm going to try to keep it high level because I said as I said then, it's quite complicated, and my briefing book is pretty long and getting longer actually. So I wanted to just sort of touch on some big picture topics and try to answer some of the questions that you have raised with me in the this week. So first of all, I just wanted to say again, budgets are complicated. Any one of you who's ever done one, they involve compromises, and they're done as a package for good reason, because if you break things apart into individual pieces, you will never get anywhere, and we have to govern the entire state, and we have to make a plan. So there's always going to be stuff. I'm not going to like every single thing in there, but I have to believe in the overall concept of what we're trying to achieve, and I do. So I wanted to, first of all, I just reemphasize this is preliminary. Lots of negotiations will happen after this. But I wanted to first emphasize that this is a fiscally responsible budget. And I applaud the governor for starting us off on fiscal responsibility. And what that means is that the state of Connecticut is honestly and transparently paying its bills, as opposed to the way we have sometimes governed in the past. And the financial markets have reacted accordingly. And in the last, most recent bond sale, the state saved $46 million in interest costs, because buyers understand, are giving us a better interest rate because they regard us as a more secure risk. That's because of the fiscally responsible and financially stable plan that the governor is putting forward, and that we are responding to in kind. And so that's a good thing. It's a lot of hard choices, and it's sometimes, there's a reason people aren't always honest with their budgeting, is because it's painful, and you have to tell people things that they don't want to hear. But it's the only way forward, and it's the only way we get Connecticut back on the right track, and I feel strongly that's one of the things I was elected here to do. So I applaud the governor's start. And our budget is, in terms of overall budget, our budget is 1.9% higher than the governor's budget. But most of that's fixed costs that we can't do anything about. I'm sorry. Let me restate that. Our budget is 1.9% over last year's budget. That's overall budgetary growth, not over the governor's budget. Most of that is fixed costs. The growth in non-fixed costs is less than 0.5%. It's about 0.3%. So it's pretty small, and I think that's pretty responsible. We have funded things that will produce efficiencies and improve the way the government operates, like the Contracting Standards Board, which I talked a little bit about last time. It also, overall, the budget is consistent with the basic values that I have stated all along. It invests in our kids. It increases funding to after-school programs, including rural transportation. It increases funding for K through 12 education that is so critical. It increases funding for community colleges, which are a really important step in the program for education and for workforce development. It invests overall in further workforce development, including manufacturing, healthcare, machinist training, all kinds of things that these programs that have proven records of getting people in jobs and filling the jobs that we know we can create here in Connecticut. So I think those are important investments. It also protects the most vulnerable. Let me give one example to that I touched on a little bit last time, but I want to be a little clearer. Western Connecticut Mental Health Network in Torrington. It is a state-run facility. It's run by workers from the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. The governor's budget suggested that be closed and privatized and put out for a bidding process for nonprofits to bid on. So that, because I do believe that we have to, there are some instances in which it is very appropriate for us to move services from the state to nonprofits. I looked, as I've said before, I looked a lot into that. I met with a lot of nonprofits that were interested in it. I met with the clients who are served by Western Connecticut. I met with the workers who work there. Try to get as much into the details as I could. And I tell you, one of the most persuasive things I learned is that some of the nonprofit leaders in Torrington that I most respect really think this facility, Western Connecticut, is one of the best mental health providers in the state of Connecticut, and that they are achieving their goals. Their outcomes are fantastic. They have incredibly innovative programs, and it is working. And so these people basically suggested that if, in some, I mean, these are nonprofits, so they definitely believe in moving some services to nonprofits. But you should do that with facilities that aren't doing their job, that aren't meeting the targets that we set for them. This is not one of them. So I'm very proud that I fought to make sure that would not be privatized, and our budget keeps it as it is and allows them to keep doing the fantastic job they're doing with their clients. So we also the budget also invests in things like it protects seniors by increasing funding to Meals on Wheels and for programs like the Center for Medicare Advocacy. Now, a couple of just things I want to clear up. One big remaining question is the governor's proposal to shift teachers' pension costs onto municipalities. Not all of them, but a significant percentage of them, which I do not favor for a whole host of reasons. I don't think that's a good way to balance your budget by pushing obligations onto municipalities, because they don't have any choice but to raise property taxes, and that's a problem. So the budget I voted on does not include that assumption, and that was important to me. That said, it is still very much in question. If any of you watched the press conference, leadership of appropriations said that was an error on their part, and they had intended to include that in the budget because they understand that should be part of the conversation going on. So that conversation is very much still going on, and I'm participating in it. So we will see. There's no agreement on what to do there, so we're going to keep talking about that. The other side, of course, is the revenue side, and that's, of course, getting a lot of news because nobody wants to pay additional taxes, and I get that. I'm not on that committee, so I'm dealing with that a level behind and trying to catch up with things they've passed, but I haven't, of course, voted on any of this yet. So I just wanted to highlight quickly some of the things that came out of finance because they were questions that you have asked me about. One is the governor's proposed tax on used cars, which created sort of a double taxation. If you traded in your car, you had to pay tax on the trade-in as well as paying tax on the new vehicle you were buying. That is out of the budget, which is a good thing. Also, this came out early, but there was originally in the governor's proposal an idea to change the way we do motor vehicle property tax assessments and create a statewide rate that would get paid to the state and then distributed by different formulas to municipalities. That's not happening, so that is staying with the municipalities. It also eliminated, finance did not or eliminated the asset test for Medicare savings programs that the governor had proposed. I think that's a good idea. I think an asset test in general is not a bad idea, but the level they set it at was way too low, and so I'm pleased that they did not pass that. Our finance committee also eliminated things like the gift tax and the business entity tax. So lots of details coming out further on that, and I'll keep you apprised, but those are just some highlights. I also wanted to I got a lot of questions or email in the last couple weeks about the proposed gas pipeline tax repeal, and my apologies to those of you who are not in the weeds on this one, but it essentially, there is a tax that subsidizes the cost of gas pipelines, and many people objected to that because it's subsidized an industry that isn't always environmental, and that did not make it out of the Environment and Technology Committee, and I'm sorry for that. The advocacy will continue in future years, but I would have supported that legislation had it made it out, and I'll be looking for ways to see whether we can bring that back in future years. Then in terms of events, I actually somehow made it to a bunch of events over the course of the week, which kept me out of my sitting at my desk, either in committee or here. It was Drug Take Back Day in both Kent and North Canaan on Saturday. I was not able to make it, but as the substance abuse epidemic is very much a family affair in my household, and my husband and I have both been involved in various aspects, and so I thank my husband Tom for manning the desk in North Canaan that day. And for all of you who showed up to participate in that important event, which of course helps all of us get, if you have extra prescription drugs in your medicine cabinet, to get them out of your house and get them disposed of in an appropriate way. I also, the Shane Kinsella Memorial Run this weekend that I ran in last year, and I will tell you that it's a 5-mile run, and I enjoyed about 4.25 miles of it, and the last 3/4 of a mile is a brutal, brutal hill. So I could not run it this year because I had a lunch pretty much at the same time. So I stopped by and I walked the walking part of it. So if I'm really honest, I don't really miss that last hill, it's really painful. So all of you who made it out to that run, I wish you power and pride in your ability to stick through that. But it was nice to be there with all the runners and the Hooper family and the Kinsella family and the Ives, everybody who supported that event in Goshen, which this year went to benefit the kids of Goshen and to help pay for tuition for camp fees and things like that. So really great event. Also, the lunch that I missed it for was the League of Women Voters lunch, which celebrated their 50th anniversary, and I was able to present a citation too for the founders, which was fantastic. Really powerful women who've done incredible things in their communities. Went to the Salisbury Association Volunteer Fair also last weekend, in which lots of people, not just from Salisbury, from the greater area, showed up to volunteer for various organizations, and it was a chance for the various volunteer organizations to talk to one another too. And so that was really, I had thought I would be there for about an hour, and I think I closed it down about 2.5 hours later. They had to kick me out. I had so many interesting conversations. Then on Wednesday, I got to honor 2 people at evening events. Judy McElhone of the 5 Points Gallery in Torrington, who she's such a critical figure in the arts world in Torrington and in the revitalization of downtown Torrington. And she refuses to take any credit for herself. So we have to make sure that she gets publicly honored so that those accolades come her way as is appropriate. She's really been just an important and really admired figure, not just in the 5 Points Gallery right in central Torrington, but also now in the development of an arts school on the former UConn campus there. So that is a really exciting thing for Torrington that is already putting it on the map and getting notice from national organizations. So that's going to be really exciting. And I went to an event in Rocky Hill to honor my former aide who got an award for being a powerful and active young Democrat in her community. So that was fun too. I got to meet a lot of people there. Then today in appropriations, we were voting on some bills that had fiscal notes that came that weren't. Some of which were part of the budget we vote on and some of which were not. But the main vote there was on creating a public option for health care insurance. And I've talked about that before. This is also something I've had a lot of meetings on many sides. And I see this as, a direction or an option that we are creating, that we'd like to create for a number of reasons. First of all, it comes out of the fact as we watch the federal government unravel basic health care protections and the Affordable Care Act, that is it's a system that's based in private insurance, but it is being undermined to such a degree that it really has created chaos and also increased costs for a lot of people. And so I see the creation of a public option as just a way for us to find other ways for small businesses and nonprofits to reduce their healthcare costs and still deliver high quality healthcare for their workers. So we have to be creative. And so it's controversial, and there'll probably be a lot of work ahead between now and the time it hits the floor, because it is quite complicated. But we voted today to fund a in-house study, not by outside consultants, by the comptroller, to look at creating that option as a way to help reduce and control healthcare costs for businesses and for people. So that ended up being a long meeting, which is why right now I should be at the Women and Girls Fund event held by the Northwest Connecticut Community Foundation, which I had been really looking forward to. So if you went to that event, I'm sorry I missed you, but appropriations went too late, and now I'm not going to make it in time. Except I hope you're probably having your dessert right now. So enjoy it for me. Have an extra one. That is a fantastic organization. Women's Girls Fund has supported real life needs of women and girls in our community for years and has grown to more than 200 supporters who help women and girls develop economic self-sufficiency through education, financial literacy, and social services. So sorry to miss you this evening, but we are supporters, and we wish you good speed in the future. So that's it for now. There will be more news on all of these things in the future, and have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in.